I want to ask you about one episode in particular, and I think you're probably going to guess which one it is. It's the Christmas episode from season 2. Fishes.
Yeah.
Okay, and the cast that's in this, the regulars, and then John Mulaney, Bob Odenkirk, Jamie Lee Curtis, Sarah Paulson, just to name
a few.
Yeah. What was that like on the set? That day, that week, were weeks that you shot that.
It was like, it was one of the most. We shot in this little house in Evanston, right, which is a northern suburb of Chicago.
Where Northwestern is, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was a little house, and then there was like a house across the street where the actors hung out. And I don't know what to tell you, but it was like summer camp. I know a couple of those people that work with them, but. Honestly, I talked with a member of the cast, and we did a little like stunt casting, right? Like, in other words, having really famous people play smaller roles than they might. It's what gives it a bad name, but it can take people out of the show, because all of a sudden you're going, oh my God, Chris was, first of all, he's brilliant at casting, so like these people are all perfectly cast, right? But he was also really deft at sort of, he would introduce them and then they'd go away to let people get used to the idea. And then when, by the time things really kicked into gear in that episode, you were like, also because all these people are, again, so talented. But it was, one of the things that Chris is really brilliant at is creating a wonderful atmosphere to work in, and it's playful, it's productive, it doesn't do a lot of takes, so you have your bags packed. You know what I mean? Like, you need to know your freaking lines, but it's thrilling, and it's just fun.
The scene around the dinner table, when Bob Odenkirk, one of the uncles,
right,
tells John Bernthal, who plays, Carmy's brother, or soon to be late brother, that starts the whole reason for the bear, right? When he tells him to not, throw another fork, right, at him, and he proceeds to do it, I'm sitting at home thinking, oh my God, this is going to be something. What is it like? You just mentioned that you're not taking multiple takes when you're sitting around a table.
Not
like
multiple
that.
takes, but long takes too. He loves the long take.
Right.
As was sort of, as he tipped his hand on that with that incredible episode, episode 7 of the first season, which is like one take in the kitchen when everything goes to hell, right?
Right.
So, but the great thing about that is that it really, because narrative tension is what you're talking about,
yes,
right? And that's what we all are seeking, certainly as viewers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're all sitting around the table, and listen, shooting scenes around tables can be a nightmare because you do it over and over again, because you've got to get all these different angles. But Chris had, his incredible, Drew, his director of photography. They had all the cameras set up. And, these were, the first piece was from when we basically kind of, after we sat down, a little bit after we sat down until Jamie enters. I mean, it's about, I don't know, it was 7 or 8 minutes. That's a long time. So in other words, the tension got to build. You're sitting there around the table, and first of all, it makes you incredible. It makes it very easy for you to do your job because you're just reacting in real time. Oh, absolutely.
Not like, oh God.
There's a lot of the stuff that came out of my mouth was because as if you will, the closest thing to a patriarch that around that table, which I was.
Yes.
Watching it get out of hand, I said to Chris between days, I said, dude, I wouldn't let this happen. I gotta get in there. He said, get in there. And so that's when I started like yelling at people and
trying to keep the peace.
Well, sort of trying to, because I didn't want there to be, nobody wanted to throw that fork. Nobody wanted to throw that fork, of course. But as an actor, it's kind of nirvana, right? Because you're the biggest enemy of acting for the screen anyway. Is just all is all the time between takes and cutting the camera. You often do very, very short pieces, right? And I love it. I love crafting these little things. But this is a kind of you almost like you're in a little bit of a play.
I
right?
felt, I was literally going to tell that to you, Oliver, that it felt like I was watching a live performance, that scene, and how it was ratcheting up and how intense it was. And the best compliment I can even remotely pay is I was late to streaming the season for various reasons. And I heard about the Christmas episode. You've got to see the Christmas episode. It's unlike any other, and there's a bunch of cameos in it. And I try to stay away from it, and it was better than I expected. Again, the expectation level for me was raised so high.
Rich, when I read that episode,
Yeah,
I was really like, I think that might be the best episode of television I've ever read.
no kidding.
But by the way, just because something awesome on the page doesn't always necessarily, but you know, in this case, a lot there was. I think there was. I mean, I certainly read a lot of the episode got a lot of attention. We're talking about it right now, and but you want to know what's ironic? You know what is actually my favorite episode of that season?
What's that?
Is the next one, which ironically is called Forks. It's the one where Richie goes to the restaurant.
It's beautiful.
It's I was like recovering from I had an ankle thing going on, and so I, like you, I didn't stream it right away because I learned from the I wanted to have a lot of time because I knew that it was just going to be I was going to go boom 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 boom. You just want to keep on watching, right?
Yes.
And I was so grateful that I was alone in the basement of my house watching that episode because I started to like make I just found it deeply moving.
It was beautiful.
I started to like moo like a cow, make all these sort of weird animal noises that I'm just so grateful nobody else was in the house to hear me. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It would be deeply embarrassing even alone. You know, I embarrassed myself alone. No, I think, and it's confusing because that episode's called Forks, whereas the Fishes is actually about forks.
I know that.
Right?
You would think that it would be called Forks, but it's about fishes because of
always messing with our head.
Well, I mean, and again, because then that's one of the many things about the bear that I do love is there's a lot of characters to root for. And Richie, you root for him, and you're just waiting for him for all these episodes to turn a corner, right? To turn a corner. And I don't want to give too much away, but just that episode is beautiful to watch him locate a corner, like to actually know one exists. And the way that it was all laid out was kind of a surprise.
Totally.
And beautiful to watch develop. It's a great, man.
But it's also, you know, I think one of the things that Chris also is a real facility for is working with time and flashbacks. Fishes is a flashback, right? Mm-hmm. If it happens 5 years before, like he's still alive, it happens 5 years before sort of the general chronological area of what you call the present in the bear, right?
Yes.
And what makes it's so heartbreaking is that like we see Richie and Tiffany, who we know from the rest from the show we've already watched, that the relationship doesn't last. You know what I mean? And I mean, one of my favorite scenes one of my favorite love scenes ever is when Richie goes upstairs. You know, Tiffany's pregnant; she's got morning sickness. He goes up there to check on her, and they just have this wonderful conversation, and it's so affectionate and so real, you know, and that makes what happens in Forks so devastating, right? Because you know but it's also devastating just to watch that. It's so sad because we know that relationship is not going to last, right? We know that marriage is not going to last. And then at the beginning of Forks, she calls him to tell him. We don't have to worry about spoiler. I mean, everybody's seen.
Go ahead.
Are you worried about your audience not having seen The Bear?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
No, go ahead. Just keep going.
Too late, man. It's all your fault.
It's my fault. I'm the one wearing the shirt.
I'm rolling now.
No, it's
no. But we when she calls him, to tell him that she's getting remarried, because she doesn't want him to hear from anybody else, and we know that she's trying to be casual, but we know she's heartbroken because she still, you know, loves the guy, and he's outside that restaurant where he doesn't want to polish the forks, right? Mm-hmm. And it just sets up. The thing about Forks is so amazing. I don't think I've ever. We watch. What you want to have happen in a narrative is for a character to change.
Yes. That's
why we watch stories, right? Do we see what does the story do to this person? How do they change? I have never seen a character change more, undergo a transformation in whatever that episode is, 40, 50 minutes in my life. And again, it's all the setup is there, but
It's beautiful. And by the way, just to put a button on it, your character, I never want to see change. I want you just to be the same dude that you are every damn episode.
Yeah, trying to remember that, Rich.
Never change, Oliver Platt. Never change.
Don't ever change.
Don't ever change. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.